Hello everybody, this is Dino GTO and this is going to be my review of the M103 Tier 9 American Heavy, and I'm going to compare it directly to the D10. Why am I comparing it to the D10 and not the Conqueror, you may be wondering, but there's a simple answer for that, and that is I think the Conqueror overall is just the superior tank. It just is a better tank overall, and they both have the exact same. The, Basically, the easiest way to describe these two machines is they're basically the exact same tank, except the Conqueror is a little slower accelerating and is a little less maneuverable. It's pretty much the exact same tank in every other stat, except the Conqueror gets a little more health and has a better DPM, better aiming time, better accuracy. Yeah, it's just think of them as the exact same tank, except the Conqueror gets far better gun handling. The M103 really does not have any advantages over the Conqueror. The Conqueror has the better turret as well. I should make that clear. It's a way stronger turret than the M103, and it's actually got a stronger engine. And yeah, it's not even it's not a competition. These two aren't really comparable anymore. Back when this thing had a horrifically bad turret, it made sense to compare them because the M103 technically had the overall stronger armor. But now that the Conqueror has a monstrously strong turret, it doesn't really make sense to compare them at all. Like if you compare these two, look at the turret in this thing and compare it to the turret on the M103. Watch this. This thing here has a big giant weak point here, big giant weak point here, big giant weak point here, and the roof armor, if you have a 120mm gun or bigger, is a weak point. Conqueror has a roof, which you need at least a 151mm gun to be able to overmatch. The area below the gun mantlet's now a weak point. Firing anywhere on the front of the turret is a bad idea. You're not going to pin anywhere on the front. And even this area here, that there area is a ricochet, auto ricochet. So you need to hit exactly here, and that's not that big of a target, honestly. So yeah, this thing is just the better machine. It's actually got stronger side armor too. This thing here only has 44 side armor. This thing gets 50. So no real contest. So I'm going to compare it to the D10 instead because I feel like they're a bit closer in terms of stats, but I still think the D10 overall is a better machine. I'm going to get into why here now. Okay, just going to start off by saying if you see the top speed as 34, then it's the M103 I'm looking at the stats of. If you see the top speed is 50, then it's the T10 I'm looking at. That's just to make it a bit clearer as to which machine I'm talking about at the particular time. Okay, first off, I'm going to start off with the DPM and just the general gun stats. The T10 is actually better DPM wise than the M103, which is kind of shocking because typically one of the main traits of the 122mm guns is pretty bad DPM, but on this machine here, the DPM is actually better. Both have exactly the same penetration. The T10 gets a longer reload, but I believe that actually helps the machine more than it hurts it because you're exposed for less time and you can just keep poking out, firing, falling back, poke out, fire, fall back. Yeah, it's just that kind of playstyle. The D10 does 440 alpha per shot, whereas the M103 only does 400. And you can really feel that difference. That 440 alpha feels a lot harder hitting than 400. It doesn't seem that much of a difference, but it's really noticeable when you're playing the machines. And I am comparing the T10 based off of the IS-8 form of the T10 because that's back when I played it. I do intend on rebuying the T10 at some point because I enjoyed the IS-8 so much. The IS-8 was actually worse in the last stats than the T10. T10 gets a much stronger turret as an example, and it gets a better hull overall. So yeah, just making that clear. Just to start with. The M103 has the advantage in aiming time and accuracy, but not by much in terms of accuracy. Accuracy is actually really close between them. And the T10 is actually better in terms of gun handling stats, the soft stats that you can't actually see in the game. the T10 is actually much, much better. Let's scroll down a little. This is the T10. T10 gets 122mm, 940 shell velocity, 30 rounds of ammo, and 1065 shell cost. M103 is 120mm, better shell velocity, only 3 more rounds of ammo, and it's only 5 credits cheaper to fire. So technically, you're getting more bang for your buck from the T10's gun. So be aware of that. Now onto the mobility stats, and this is where the M103 is at its worst, in my opinion. If you want to think about this machine, think about it as the Centurion of heavies. It gets to its top speed very, very quickly, but it feels like when it gets to top speed, it feels like there should be another gear for the tank to go into to be able to go faster, because 34 kilometers an hour top speed going forward cripples this machine. It can't get around the battlefield the way it should be able to with a machine that has such kind of crappy armor, honestly. Whereas T10 has actually got a 16 kilometer an hour top speed advantage over the M103. It's massive, and the reverse speed is not a small stat. This top speed has gotten me killed so many times in this tank. 12 kilometer an hour reverse speed with a machine that has this weak of armor kills this machine. It honestly does. Whereas T10 doing 15 in reverse, it doesn't seem like that much of a difference, but when you're playing the machines, you can really, really feel that difference. And the amount of situations I got killed in the M103 because I could not back off that little bit with that little bit of extra speed is unbelievable. Like, I got killed so often just by overextending just a little bit, and any other tier 9 heavy, I feel like I could have fallen back and like kind of relocated, got myself angled, got myself ready to fight the enemies. But in this thing here, I just couldn't really successfully do that. Now onto the power to weight ratio, because looking at the raw engine power isn't really relevant. It's more about the power to weight ratio. So the M103 actually has the advantage in power to weight ratio overall, because it's not that much better, but it's still a little bit better. But the T10 has a pretty big advantage in tank traverse. It's 4 degrees per second better, and the T10 has much better soft stats than the M103. So overall, the T10 is the much more mobile machine. Now onto the gun elevation stats. Both have the exact same gun elevation, but the M103 is better in gun depression. But thinking about the gun depression of the M103, something that's hilarious that's going to be a thing next patch. The AMX 5120 is going to have more gun depression than the M103. That's hilarious. Like, how does an autoloader have better gun depression than an American heavy? That just seems so weird to me. But yeah, I'm not going to complain about the buff. AMX 5120 kind of needed it, honestly, because it just felt very inflexible, and the gun elevation was also awful on that machine. So yeah. Turret traverse speed, M103 is better in terms of the turret traverse speed, so that's a good thing. Both these tanks don't have the front armor or the weight to ram, so ramming in either of these machines isn't that great of an idea. The T10 has the speed to ram, but doesn't have the front armor. M103 has the front armor to ram, but does not have the top speed. So both of these machines aren't really capable of ramming very well. So just take that into account if you ever get into a situation into that kind of situation. So the only machines you would really want to ram in either of these machines is probably something like a Waffentrager. Anything bigger than that, you're probably going to end up doing a lot more damage to yourself than the enemy. So just keep that in mind. In terms of health pools, they're very, very close. T10 gets a much better engine health, but the M103 gets a better ammo rack health. And that's a general trait of this line. The T10's line all have pretty weak ammo racks generally, so that's something just to be aware of for that line. And here's something that made me laugh pretty hard when I was thinking of a tank to compare this to. The M103, with its giant ass turret and giant size, has a worse view range than the T10, which is about half of the size, but has a better view range. Okay, that seems legit. Okay, yeah, I have no words for that, but yeah, all I can really say is okay. Weird, but okay. Uh, the fire chance on the M103 is much worse than the T10, even though tanks of this tier typically carry automatic fire extinguishers, but because it's American, shooting the rear drive wheel can result in you catching fire if you're unlucky. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're playing this machine. Definitely run this machine with an auto fire extinguisher just in case. Now onto the armor. Just gonna run over them quickly. T10, I believe, is actually stronger frontally than the M103 because if you're using any gun depression at all with this machine, you get ridiculous armor. You get ridiculous effective armor. I forgot how to say that there. So that's a giant bonus that this thing gets over the M103. The lower plate's completely not trash, but so is the M103s. Like the M103 has a crappy lower plate as well. It's same as smaller, but because the M103 is so much taller in terms of just raw size, it doesn't feel like a small lower plate. The lower plate feels massive when you're driving this thing around because it's, for me at least, it seemed very difficult to actually hide the lower plate on this machine, and I just wasn't able to get the most. I find it very difficult to get into positions where I could actually consistently cover the lower plate. And the 8 degrees gun depression, while that's not bad, because this tank's so tall, it made that a bit tricky to use, if I'm totally honest. So be aware of that. And both of them have insanely strong up front plates, but that's just a general trait of tier 9 heavies. So anything that's not, that's a weird, that's surprisingly low amounts of armor in some areas here. Huh. Oh, that's an auto pen. So a 76mm gun can fire into the upper plate of this thing and pen. Okay, that's kind of funny. Yeah, just be aware of this here. All tier 9 heavies have extremely strong upper front plates. All except the 5120, but just it's not really that special to have a strong upper front plate. Like that means nothing on this thing. The main problem with this thing is it's really terrible turret, which I already talked about. And when you compare it to the T10's turret, it looks even worse because just look at the armor values. Yep, you can tell this thing's in the IS7 line, can't you? I got an 2,193 armor. Seems legit. It's amazing. Let's see, that's 40mm of roof armor. So the T10 can auto pen or can overmatch its own roof, but it can't. But an M103 could not overmatch the roof of this thing because it's 40mm and not 39mm. You need over 120mm gun, so you would need a 121mm gun to overmatch this. And M103 only has a 120mm gun, so it cannot overmatch. So, and here's another interesting thing about the M103. The turret roof at the front is only 38mm, so the M103 can overmatch its own turret frontally with ease. The T10, if it's above you, can also overmatch the turret, so be aware of that. The side armor is horrifically bad. If artillery splashes next to you, they will almost certainly take off like half of your health. Rear armor's bad, no point even mentioning that. T10, I would say, actually has better side armor. In fact, easily has better side armor. It's 80mm, 120 up here, 80 down here. And yeah, just overall armor wise, I would say the T10's stronger tank. And then there's the main weakness of the M103, which is the side of the turret. Now, when you're driving a lot of other nations' heavies, you have a tendency to just angle the turret slightly away from the enemies so they can't just fire premium rounds through the face of your turret. You can't do that in this thing. It's either face the front towards the enemy or get penned constantly. And this is why. This seems like a pretty good angle, doesn't it? But because the armor values here are so bad, almost everything that you're going to meet in this thing will go through with ease. So don't ever angle the turret on this thing. Everything will go through with ease. So just be aware of that. And last thing I need to say about this thing's armor is this thing can side scrape to an extent. It's 44 side armor, so it can side scrape versus guns up to I think 132 millimeters in caliber. So it can't side scrape versus Japanese heavies. It can't side scrape versus almost any of the tier 10 tank destroyers. The only exceptions to that being the Object 263 and the newly coming out STRV 103B or whatever the heck it's called, the S tank. So just be aware of that. So only side scrape when you're against other heavies. Don't ever side scrape when you're against tank destroyer. They will just overmatch your side armor and will pen you every single time. So I think that's about everything I need to say about this thing's armor. I think I went pretty in depth with it. And I shaved about 9 minutes off my previous time. Hey, that's pretty nice. So, to summarize, I think the T10 is overall the better tank. It's more mobile. It's got better overall characteristics. It's a smaller profile machine, so it's more difficult to hit a lot of the time, even though it's pretty long. In fact, let's just do this comparison here. Let's see. Let's just, if I zoom in the maximum, nope, that's not. Hang on, if I hit stats and then 3D model, oh crap, nope, it's not gonna work. Hang on, I'll go into Tanks GG and I will open them both up again so that they're at the same amount of zoom, if you know what I mean. So if I click 3D model, put the side profile up, these are zoomed in the same amount. Look at the size difference between these two. The turret in the M103 is nearly as big as the hull on the T10. It's a massive difference. So, yeah, that's a pretty huge disadvantage to the M103, and it's why you see artilleries one-shot these things so often, because they just need to hit the side of the turret, and they're probably going to pen, and they're probably going to one-shot you. So, if artillery is focusing on you in this thing, basically rip. You cannot survive getting hit by artillery in this thing. It just can't take hits for shit by artillery. Whereas this thing here actually has some measure of protection with the space side armor, the tracks, and it's actually relatively well protected versus artillery because of the spaced armor and all on the side, which will eat some of the damage from artillery. Whereas this thing here has huge tracks, but the armor behind the tracks is so thin that it makes no difference whatsoever. So I think that's about everything I need to say about this thing in terms of armor and general stats. So yeah, on to the replay. Okay, quick heads up. This is recorded in the Movie Maker voice recording thing, so yeah, it may sound a little different to the previous thing because it was recorded in Audacity, but I had this gameplay already recorded and I didn't really think I should record the entire thing again, but this was an awesome first shot. Straight into his tracked him sideways on in front of me. This guy's pretty much dead and the game has barely even started. This is an assault on Erlenberg, which seems to be one of my better maps, honestly, because I've had a number of pretty good games that I've uploaded. I know one was in T54, one's in the KV5, and I think there was another one I was going to upload, but I never did. I can't remember. Yeah, there was at least one more I didn't upload, but that was because that one was a bit too short and I didn't really think I should upload that one. Okay, moving forward here, this is just how I play this map. I play this map left side, aggressive as possible, get through the enemies here, and the enemies the other side will generally crumble. I'm usually the one who pushes forward while everybody else camps the ridge. I spot for them, I get the assistance damage, I get just the general bonus from spotting these guys. I may take a few hits, I may have less health, but because those guys typically have so much health remaining, we typically can just stomp the enemy team and just easily win. Alright, this E75, this guy, I'm not entirely sure what he was at. He just kind of ignored an M103 right next to him and just kind of let me shoot the shit out of him. But something I do need to say quickly about this gun. This gun for me, I just have horrifically bad luck with. This is one of the good games where the gun just behaved itself and let me do my thing. But there was a game not too long ago when I was starting the grind of this machine. I had just got the top gun, and the gun just decided it didn't want to hit anything for me. And yeah, that's the one shot that guy fired at me, and it bounced. But yeah, I have had 14 shots, 13 or 11 missed. 2 went into the tracks. No, 2 bounced off the enemy's armor. And these were all center mass shots, and one was eaten by the tracks. I had no explanation for that game. That game was just, how the hell did that even happen? But yeah, this T-28 is the only guy that's going to penetrate me while I'm heading over here. I had already committed to heading over here when T-34 shot me. This position here is really, really strong for actually aggressively pushing forward on the side of the map. This is where I get kind of caught out by the T-32's angled front armor. I have a tendency to forget how strong that thing's front armor is, but yeah, everybody forgets things from time to time. And here's the T-28. The T-28 has no hope versus me at all. That thing, it's kind of sad because it's supposed to have armor, it just doesn't. And yeah, I felt kind of bad about that at the time, but I quickly got over that. I'm gonna take a shot, trying to go take a shot here, and it's eaten by the ground, annoyingly. And at this point I noticed, I think it was T10 heading forward. I think you can see that on the map. I'm doing this in the preview window because it's Movie Maker, not Audacity, so it's very difficult to actually see. I think you just saw the T10 coming in there now. Yep, there he is. And that actually did more damage than I expected. He might have controlled impact or something on his tank, but I think he actually did more damage to himself. It was difficult to tell there. I didn't get a very good look at it. Text is very small. Than he did to the 75. But yeah, just killing off the T-32. T-34 puts one shot into me, then proceeds to just kind of do whatever the heck he's doing right now. I track him, somebody else puts a shot into him, somebody shoots him with HE I think, and then I finish him off. Because the 75 was, luckily enough for me, not moving fast enough to actually do enough damage to kill him. So that was pretty nice for me, up to a top gun. Not going to spoil how much damage I've done yet because it's a pretty significant number. This is probably the highest damage game I've ever had in this machine because honestly my luck in this machine wasn't that great. I used a bunch of personal reserves to get through this thing as fast as possible. Just because you're not very good in the machine and you don't like that machine very much does not make the machine bad. Like, that's one thing I want to clarify. This is not a bad machine, I just don't like it very much, and also that shot was bullshit. Like, that's what I talk about when I mean this gun is just so inconsistent. Aimed at the area where, if that had hit the area I was aiming at, I would have killed that guy. But because it didn't, the gun just decided not to. And also, I should just point out here, I have used all of my AP, and I didn't fire a single heat round. I used all of my AP and one HG round. You're never going to run out of ammo in this thing, honestly. And this game is a lot of damage, and I just have to say, you're never going to run out of ammo. It's not a thing that's going to happen. Okay, these are the stats of the game. Top gun, high caliber, and steel wall with an ace tanker, which is always nice to get. 6,000 damage, 1,600 base XP. The XP on the personal score and the detail report is boosted because of the personal reserves I used, but yeah, not really. Well, as soon as you explain it, it makes sense. So yeah, that's why I've got so much free XP, got so much actual XP as well. So yeah, overall pretty damn nice game. And now comes the final question: will I keep it or will I sell it? And the answer to that is I will probably sell it. In fact, yes, I am going to sell it. I'm going to put that at the end of the video. I'm going to sell this thing and it's going to be gone from my garage. I've had it sitting in my garage for like a year now. It took a long time to get through this thing because I just didn't enjoy playing it. It's a good machine, there's no doubt, but the drawbacks to it don't suit me. I can't really use them. I can't really use it to its full potential. But yeah. So yeah, it's going to be leaving my garage. I'm going to put it at the end of the video. So that's all I can really say. Okay, this is a new section I'm recording just quickly here. I think I discovered the reason why I don't like this machine very much at all. Think about it like this. The T10 is great in two specific areas. It has a really good gun and it's really fast. So it can kind of make do with the mediocre armor. The E75 has a mediocre gun but great armor and good speed for the armor it has. Now compare those to the M103. What does it have that's great? It doesn't have anything that's great. The gun is okay, the armor is at best okay, and the mobility is at best okay. You'd be amazed how much of a difference that makes to the way you feel about a tank. Like with the E75, you know what its main strength is. It's its armor, and it's pretty good mobility for the armor it has. With the T10, you know you just have to outmaneuver your enemies. You need to get around them. You need to use that amazing gun. Just do as much damage as you possibly can, while not getting shot in return if you can avoid it. And if you need to get shot in return, make sure you cover the lower plate. This thing here doesn't really have anything like that. It's an okay gun with an okay chassis with an okay amount of armor. So it's really hard to play to the strengths of a vehicle that doesn't really have any particular strengths. And it's very difficult to play a machine which is just okay in every regard, because it's not particularly good at anything because of that. Like it can't flank because it doesn't have the speed. It can't be a traditional heavy because it doesn't have the armor. And its gun just means that both of those things are harder to do. So yeah, that's about sums up my opinions on this vehicle. I didn't like it very much, and as you saw, I sold it. So yeah, I'm not going to be playing it again. So about finishes it up. So thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.